Hello friends, it's Lisa and I'm back today with a new video reviewing the Dr. P.H. Martin liquid watercolors. These are the Hydra set that we're going to talk about, and I'm going to go ahead and use this really cute Avriel unicorn stamp set. Since the Dr. P.H. Martin isn't per se a craft company, they don't really have their own stamps. I've been trying to use stamps from each stamp company, but they don't have stamps. So I decided to use this super cute unicorn one, which technically I think they're actually alicorns, if My Little Pony is correct. I have watched every My Little Pony episode as I live with a 4-year-old. So, 4-year-old little girl who loves them. She actually loved this painting, and I'm supposed to be giving it to her. I need to make it into a card, so I'll do that and then give it to her. Anyway, I decided not to mask this and create like a whole scened image where things were in the foreground and background. I just didn't have it in me at that point. So instead, what I'm doing is just putting them all out there and I'm stamping onto a Bristol Smooth watercolor paper using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. You'll see that I just used the little embossing powder bag thing that makes it anti-static. Now I'm stamping it down, and I'm going to, see, this is why I use the stamp positioner. I'm not super great at stamping. Here I'm going to take the clear Ranger embossing powder, and then I'll use my heat gun and heat it up, and I'll have a nice embossed image that I can paint. Like I said in my last video, I have been multi-stamping. You can see I burned my fingers a little bit. Multi-stamping or making multiple copies when I do these images. Here I'm laying out the 12 colors that I have. I got the original pack 1. Pause it here if you're interested in seeing the colors more detailed. They have 2 additional color packs. So if you love these, there's up to 36 colors. These are the only artist grade liquid watercolors that I've been reviewing. So if you're wanting something to be light fast, or as light fast as watercolor gets, watercolor is not exactly the same as acrylic, where acrylic you really don't have to worry at all. Watercolor, even with really nice watercolors, you're going to want to not put it in direct sunlight because the colors will fade over time. So, just if that's something that's important to you, important to know. These were a lot of fun. You can see that I'm painting, since I'm doing a rainbow, I'm painting every other stripe right now because you don't want to, I didn't want a bunch of blending. I wanted very solid differentiations between the colors, but if you did want blending, which would be really nice and perhaps look more like a real rainbow, you could totally do that. And it would look great. But these are cartoon unicorns, so I went with not exactly realistic. Actually, though, there is mention of unicorns in the Bible, so I guess that means unicorns are real and awesome. Anyway, moving on. You can see you can do some really cool stuff with these watercolors. I'm adding the dot texture in, and it's actually holding. These are, with dye inks, you wouldn't be able to do this as well, but since these are pigment based, You can do really cool stuff like that even while it's wet. With dye inks, you could go back in and do it, but the dye inks wouldn't hold up as well. That's why these are really cool. So I heat set those 3, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the next 3 colors. The edges do mix a little bit between the colors. And you'll think maybe since all of the watercolors I'm using, except for possibly the Jane Davenport markers, I couldn't figure out how much is actually in there, but all of the other ones have approximately a ½ ounce, not a 1.5, but just a ½ ounce. You can get these in a full ounce bottle, and that's actually a glass bottle, but I just went ahead and got the ½ ounce bottle. A little bit more reasonably priced. So, I don't know what I was saying. It's gone. We'll just move on. So, next I'm going to pick the green color. Oh, I was saying how you don't need a ton. See, I put 2 small drops there, and I didn't need it. I did not need that much color. I probably needed half of 1 small drop to do that whole stripe, and it could have even been too much. So, you can do a lot of cool stuff with just a very little bit of product. So even though a ½ ounce doesn't seem like that much, it actually is. I had one bottle where I dropped some. I spilled on, I think it was the Hero Arts. So I spilled, but even still, it had a ton of product left. I'm not worried. It'll be months or years before I need to get a new one of that bottle, let alone any of the full bottles. Doing all of this watercoloring didn't use all that much of my product. So you don't feel like if you do a picture, you're just going to be out of product really soon. That never even crossed my mind. So you can feel comfortable. Now I have sped this up. You can tell when I'm not watercoloring. When I'm watercoloring, it's like, oh man, she's so fast at that. No, this is sped up at least, I think it's 2 times. So imagine me going a little bit slower. I decided that this was going to be a nighttime scene. So you'll see here that I'm dabbing a bunch off. It was just too dark. Too dark for a nighttime scene, because with the white background, it would have been better leaving it more vibrant, but for nighttime, the background's going to be very dark, so I want the foreground to be much lighter. Since I had the stars, it kind of had to be nighttime. If you didn't want it to be nighttime, you just leave the stars off, or have stars in the daytime, because hey, it's a painting. So I also wanted to show you that you can get very light color. And there again, I put way too much product on. That was something that I had trouble with. I kept feeling like I needed to put a bunch on, and if I had been using something else, such as mixing my own color with a tube paint or something like that, that would have been the right amount, because it would have been more water. But these pigments are so concentrated. You get a ton of pigment in each drop. So just don't overdo it, because then you feel a little bit bad. That's kind of what I found. So I decided on a pink unicorn. And you'll see I'm adding some blue highlights just to give her a little bit of contrast. She has a light pink body and a dark pink hair. Then I guess I'm going with blue, I believe, on this other one. It's been a week or two since I actually painted these. So she is going to be blue. They're two blue unicorny creatures. They're so fun. But even watering that down a lot, it was still super vibrant, so I had to use my cloth to blot up some of the vibrancy. My favorite kind of cloth or rag to use with watercolor and really any crafting is a microfiber cloth. It's going to pick up glitter. It's going to pick up water. It's going to pick up everything. It's really nice and it doesn't shed everywhere. My suggestion is to go to Walmart, grab some of the microfiber cloths. They're usually in the automotive section for cleaning cars, and you get a ton and they last forever. It's not like baby wipes or paper towels where you're throwing it away all the time, but they soak up everything and you don't have to worry. What I do is just cut them down to manageable sizes. Use that size. When it's way too wet, I just grab another one and let that one dry out. Here's one thing I did have happen is the side of my watercolor brush scratched the Bristol Smooth paper. I don't want you to feel like that is an issue with the liquid watercolor, with the Dr. P.H. Martin's, because it was an issue with the paper. So if you're using this Bristol Smooth watercolor paper, I'm not sure that this is the right paper for the Dr. P.H. Martin's. It worked well with the other liquid watercolors, but I feel like the Dr. P.H. Martin's didn't react as well. I believe that's probably because the grain of the pigment is a little bit coarser or bigger in the Dr. P.H. Martin's, which that means that you get some of the cool speckly looks, which is nice, but you need a real watercolor paper. So I have in my comparison video, I use real watercolor paper, and you'll see that the Dr. P.H. Martin's work a little bit better with that. Just something you live and you learn. But that is it. I'm just heating it with my heat tool, and I'm going to pull off my masking tape gently. It looks like I'm going really fast and just going to rip things, but at real speeds it's not. So here it is. Thank you so much for joining me. I have tomorrow a new special video coming up. Then on Saturday I have the Pink Fresh video, and next week I have 2 comparisons where I take all of the liquid watercolors that I've done and compare and contrast them. So go ahead and subscribe if you're interested, or just come back on those days. I'm so glad you visited me, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks, guys.